This is a Livico style production.
Literally, take two. There we go. Anyway, good afternoon, everybody, and I am completely thrilled to be doing this. Well, we call it the Eco Minute. It's going to go way over time. I know that's going to be the case, but I'm going to have to contact the president of the company because I have with me today something that very few of you have ever even thought about doing, adventures, going to the places he's going to tell us about. So Sebastian, as I said, please sign in now. Tell us what your last name is, Sebastian.
Hello, Randy. My last name is Arrebola.
That's what I see. Okay, I'd get all tied up. I love that name, Sebastian. And we'll leave it at that, and I'll pronounce that, practice it for our future takes. But tell us where you're coming from, Sebastian.
Well, I am Argentinian. I live in Argentina. At the moment, I live 400 kilometers south of Buenos Aires in a beautiful place called Tandil. It's with hills, very green, a very, very nice place. But I used to live in Ushuaia, the southernmost city in the world. I lived there for almost 20 years.
Yeah, so the back, let's just take the cat out of the bag and let everybody know what you do, because we're talking about a unique travel company, and it's called the Polar Travel Company, and it's sort of in the title. And this is something you've been doing for about 15 years, is that correct?
Or longer? Yes, well, a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have started in almost 20 years ago. Yes.
So if you want to go to the .com, I'm going to get that out right now. It's called the polartravelcompany.com. And on that, it's a big website, but man, oh man, oh man, destinations. So many of you have gone to see the Northern Lights, or gone to Antarctica, or gone to the Arctic, or gotten on a ship where you might have to sleep for a few days and have people take you to a place that, your bikini might be left at home, potentially,
Or not.
Or not. Okay, I like that. I got to hear about that. So tell us about your company, Sebastian. Tell us about what you do, and then I'm going to start the interrogation.
Good. Well, let me start a little bit before I founded the company. I started, as I mentioned, I lived in Ushuaia for almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. I used to be a tour guide in Ushuaia, and I moved there because of the mountains. I used to go climbing a lot in my previous years. Uh-huh. And then I saw few small, very sturdy, very basic Russian ships and other ships going to Antarctica at that time. And I at that instant, suddenly I knew that was my job. That was my dream job. So I've been searching and aiming to get that job for quite a while. I did many things. I trained myself. I studied everything related to Antarctica that I could. I went to England. I moved there for 2 years to learn English because I knew that was a very, very important part of the job. And when I went back to Ushuaia, then I finally got a job on a sailing boat to go to Antarctica for the first time.
Wow.
On a 12 meter, 36 feet sailing boat. So that was my first trip back in 2003.
Now, wait a minute. I got to stop you right there. So I've heard rumors that at the southern tip of the South America, particularly, the weather isn't that pleasant. And the waves are rather large, and 11% of three-masted schooners back in the 1800s didn't make it around that area, going from east side of the states to San Francisco.
Correct.
And you're telling me you were in what size vessel?
36 feet. That's 12 meters. 12 meters.
In that, yes. And you went through that. I mean, you can't circumvent.
I went through the Drake Passage on that boat that was owned by an Italian, and I went with an Italian crew. We were five, yes, 4 Italians and myself.
Oh, God.
That was fun, fun. And that was loud, very loud, as you can imagine.
I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine. We've had one of our eco mountain climbers who, and well, actually our photographer, Daniel Sullivan, just made that trip on a bigger vessel,
Yes.
Nat Geo trip.
Oh, yes.
About a year ago.
Beautiful vessels, beautiful.
Yeah. But boy, so go ahead. So tell us about that first visit. So what, you fell in love with the idea, then you get on this dinghy, basically.
Yeah.
And you go to Antarctica. What did you think the first time you got there?
It was unreal. But we started, when you go out from Ushuaia on the Beagle Channel, then you cross to the Chilean border, and south of Tierra del Fuego, all those little islands belong to Chile, all the way to Cape Horn. So you sail a little bit protected until Cape Horn. But then after Cape Horn, from Cape Horn to the Antarctic Peninsula or the Seychelles Islands, it's an open ocean, and it can be very, very rough.
Yes.
So being on a sailing boat, if you do a trip with a sailing boat, of course you need time to plan your trip and to see the weather. If you have a rough weather coming up, you just wait in the islands near Cape Horn to make your trip down. So it took us 4 days to go down to Drake Passage until Seychelles Islands. Yeah, that was my very first contact with Antarctica. We stopped at Deception Island, which is an active volcano, and the whole caldera collapsed, and one of the walls collapsed as well. So the water, the seawater came in, and it's possible to navigate on the inside.
Oh, of course.
So we went on the inside, and my very first landing in Antarctica was in Whalers Bay, which is, as the word says, it used to be a whaling site in Antarctica at the beginning of the 1900s. So there's still the remains of Hector whaling station there. So I was living a dream, completely living a dream. Then when we sailed from South Shetland Islands to the Antarctic Peninsula, and you start seeing the mountains of the peninsula and the big icebergs, and it was yeah, like being on another planet for the first time. It was completely, I felt like that. It was unreal.
How many years ago was that?
Almost 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. Time passes. It's quickly.
Yes.
Quickly. So now you have this company. And so the question I have to ask is, over that 20 years, have you seen a change in Antarctica as far as the global warming considerations or the?
A little bit, yes. A little bit I have seen. Well, nowadays with cameras, it helps a bit. I have some colleagues that they made the job of. Luckily, when you're in this business, and as myself, I used to be after the sailing boat, and I became being an expedition leader on bigger ships. So you get to travel a lot to these places. So I have friends taking the same pictures over the years of some glaciers, for instance, and you can see that. You can see how it's changing, and it's shocking. Honestly,
well, this is the Eco Minute, the extended version. So we're going to go way over the Eco Minute, obviously. But I want to get into your website. I want to do a topical overview. I'm promising everybody, and I told Sebastian, next week we'll have the full extended version of this. I made a friend before we started filming everybody. I made a friend today with an amazing story. So to even get the highlights would take an hour. So just some quick questions. Do you get to all of your destinations every year? Are you going to the Arctic and the Antarctic and the Falklands personally, or are you escorting people on these trips?
Both, in a way. but I used to do it as expedition. Well, I started as a staff, as a guide, and then well, actually, my very first season was a Longo, and I did the whole season on a ship as a guide. And for the next year, they asked me to be expedition leader for a couple of trips. And then that's how I became. And then I did Antarctica. Then the counter season, I did the Canadian Arctic. And then I did Svalbard, Greenland, all that area as well. So I used to do it every time, every year, maybe for 5 months on a ship every year, until 2018, when I started the company, and also when my older daughter was born.
Okay.
So, and by the time she was 6 months old, I did a trip with the Japanese TV station, NHK, where we broadcasted live in 4K and 8K from Antarctica for the first time ever.
Wow.
That was a massive job. Very, very difficult, challenging, very good, and especially challenging because weather conditions were also very challenging at that time. And that was my last trip as expedition leader. That was in December 2018.
Well, you don't want to miss that baby girl growing up because it goes too fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that as well. That was.
Is that your first?
She was my first, and then we had Camilo, who is our second. He's 2 years old now.
Oh, you got to.
We have two.
Yeah,
treasure
those days. They go too quickly.
Yes,
they do. I mean, I just had a granddaughter. It'll be a year old here in the next week or so, and it's just like blip blip. You know, they go from being a baby to a human being, and you know, granddaughters and grandpas, you know, tear you at the heart. But anyway, so all these destinations on your website, you talk about the Arctic, Antarctica, the Falklands, Patagonia, Northern Lights. I would assume Northern Lights travel and trips.
Yes.
So you're a travel company. Let's explain that right now.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. People can come and join you. They can pull out their credit card and say, I want to go see the Northern Lights. And somehow you can flip those on and, you know, guarantee them to a great trip, good food, great accommodations, and an amazing adventure, which they never thought about doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't get paid anything for that, but essentially that's how I read it. So go ahead.
Right. So, well, after being for so many years, such a long time doing these trips and working on many different ships and some operators, in fact, without knowing it, we know much. In a way, we know the inside, we know how things work, we know the places, and we know what to expect and how to advise people for these trips. So 6 months since I started the company, I partnered with a very good friend of mine, Agustin Ullman, who is also expedition leader, and we started shaping the Polar Travel Company. And what we are a travel agency, but we are advisors. We are polar advisors, and we try to take people to the right trip, to the right ship, if it is by ship, or to the places that would fit them. The offers is so wide that sometimes it's very hard to choose one trip over the other, or one ship or one destination. So, and that's what we do. That's what we try to offer to, well, at the end of the day, they become friends, our clients, because we talk so much and we help them through the whole process, booking the trip and then getting prepared for the trip, and then after the trip as well, to see how the experience was. So that's basically what we do, and that's why we we only, for now, focus on polar regions because that's what we know. And that's what we want to give. We want to offer places we know and we are experts at.
Well, I think I think that's fantastic, and I strongly suggest everybody go to your website because it's like reading a novel. There's nothing uninteresting about your website. I was looking at the ships, and I was looking at the deals, and I was looking at the costs, and I went back to look at the ships. Then I was like, they have lectures on the ships, and I mean,
yes,
what you really are is an educator, and the more education that you give people, understanding what their trip is going to be like, and then I'm sure you really get into understanding what they can learn on that or how they can experience the trip, you know, from every standpoint. I just it's an education where I know today we talk about, as we talked about earlier before we started the show, is that Live Eco Style is all about dining, travel, you know, trips, sipping, as we call sipping, and or drinking, having a drink or two, you know, health, relaxation, mental awareness and acuity, spas. Now I'm going to have to add on, let's visit the polar regions. I mean, you know, it's all the good things in life, but it's a situation that, you know, people today in travel, they know they can jump on a plane and go from Chicago to Paris and have an expectation they can pull up on line and have a good understanding of what they're going to. But there is such a calling for travel. It just is. And Live, I mean, it's a perfect fit for Live Eco Style because we're, you know, they think we're talking about global warming. We don't. We're talking about a lifestyle that I learned to share with my kids in Hawaii 20 years ago. You know, go play in the beach. Don't go to the pool where the chlorine is. Go to the ocean where you can actually smell good when you come out, you know, and learn that you can walk in the forest and actually pick a banana and eat it. And it's actually healthier than going to Costco. Not that there's anything wrong with Costco, but it's just better. It's cleaner. It's fresher. And we want to enjoy all the things in life. Well, that's got to include the polar regions because it's becoming such a focus today. Because just the headlines last week were the Arctic will, you know, it's going to change. It's melting. So apparently shipping lines are going to be changing up there, being able to go, you know, and use them in a different way. And I'm sure you've seen it. For me, I never thought about traveling. Now seeing your website, talking with you, oh yeah, I'm in. I mean, that's it. It's, you know, you got to go with Daniel Sullivan, our friendly photographer from Maui, being in Antarctica last year, sending pictures forward. It was incredible sights. I mean, just incredible. Yes. So, and no, I didn't get paid for that commercial. I'm just saying, go to his website. It's, you know, spectacular. Go ahead, Sebastian. Fill in the blanks for me.
Thank you very much. No, I was just about to say that there is a particularity about polar regions from all the places in the world. I mean, as you said, you can take a plane from Chicago, you go to Peru, go to Europe, and visit places, and you could sort of have an itinerary. Day one, I will visit this. Day two, I will visit this other place, and so on and so on. But this you cannot do in the polar regions. The itineraries are planned. Of course, they are planned ahead, but they are done and produced day by day. Because the weather conditions could be so rough that the weather and nature will decide what to do in the polar regions. And that is just fantastic. I mean, itineraries literally change from plan A to plan B to plan C, and it could go on and on and on. And as a previous staff member and polar lover, we used to say on the ships that we got beaten by the polar bag. So and once you are beaten, you need to come back and come back and come back again and again. So if something is a feature of people working on the polar regions, that we always want to do something because we love it so much. So there is always something going on, but it might not be the plan that you planned, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
It will it could be something else, and nature rules as no as you cannot compare to any other places in the world almost, if you know what I mean. I mean and for that reason, you know, like safety has to be a priority, and everything has to be very well prepared. You know,
I think the way to say this in layman's terms, because your passion that just poured through was remarkable. But I think when you're on a trip like you're explaining, the businessman's dilemma today is they're supposed to take their iPad on vacation to the beach and look at it, then look at their email every morning to make sure they stay in touch with the office. And I would think that anybody that would go on one of your trips thinking about their itinerary changing, the ship bouncing, looking for food, not knowing what's going on, the last thing they're going to be thinking about is their iPad and email from their boss. You know, it's a totally experiential, mind awareness, full bodied, eyes wide open, shut off trip from where you live to experience something you never thought that you were ever going to see in your life. I mean,
completely. But now, without losing the comfort.
Yeah.
The fleet has changed, and it's changing so much that the new ships coming to the market are fantastic. They are well, of course, they are safe. They are most of them are ice strengthened with high ice class capabilities and comfort. And so it's becoming, of course, you have the comfort on the ship once you get to land, and if it's windy, it's windy. If it's raining, it's raining. If it's snowing, it's snowing. So you need to be prepared for all type of weather conditions.
Well, let's ask the one question everybody land lover is going to ask: what's the food like?
The food is very good, very good. Usually, of course, it might change depending on ships and the company you book with. But in my experience, it is good. It's very, very good food. Of course, it's breakfast, lunch, tea time, dinner, and then it depends. Well, depends on the company, of course, but then depends on the activities you do and the size of the ship. If the whole ship, I mean, the whole team, this is what is remarkable about working on the polar regions and this expedition cruising, because even the galley, the chef and the captain, everyone is working for the expedition. It's a teamwork. If it's needed, I mean, it has happened many times to us that we're in the middle of dinner, they're about to serve the main course, and we just see whales. And everyone is gonna go out on deck to watch whales, and the chef will be waiting there for 1 hour, hour and a half, before serving food.
Yeah.
And then I mean, it is so difficult. How do you do to just so you don't burn out the food? I mean, they have to be prepared for that, and then the clients have to be prepared that it might not be as good as hour and a half ago. But that's what we do. I mean, we do stop if we see whales, for instance, or we see wildlife, and the flexibility, it's a paramount. And that is just fantastic, because it can be very frustrating for a chef that is about to serve a main course for 150 people, that to be put on pause for an hour.
Well, if he doesn't like it, he can walk home. I mean, get a cab, it's the way it is. I'm sure they're used to it. That's just,
most of them. So
yeah, it's 150 people. That answers the question. I could sit here for the next 2 hours. So I have to ask the basic question, which is your favorite destination for you?
Oh, that is a tough one. That's very tough. Well, I have been completely in love with Antarctica. Antarctica was, for me, very special. I even wrote a book about Antarctica in partnership with a Canadian biologist. So Antarctica is very, very special, but also many places in the Arctic are. No, I couldn't choose one. In fact, since I stopped sailing, I remember a lot in my dreams. I have mental images of Greenland a lot. And then this is no polar, but this is an expedition I did twice. Tristan da Cunha, which is it's a small, tiny island in the South Atlantic, and that is the remotest inhabited island in the world. It's right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and it's the farthest most land or island from any other continent. And it has 270 people in it.
Wow.
It is just fantastic.
What is the name? What is the name of that destination?
Tristan da Cunha.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Yeah.
And that is the Atlantic Odyssey that you do after the Antarctic season. When you start repositioning the ships, some of the ships, very few do this trip that starts in Ushuaia, go to South Georgia Island, Gough Island, also an island right in the middle of the ocean, Tristan da Cunha, Saint Helena, which is the island where Napoleon was imprisoned on his last years, Ascension Island, and then Cape Verde.
So I just have to end this. I mean, we're just, but I don't want to. Sorry. So I just, question after question. So when you say go see Northern Lights, are the chances pretty good? I mean, that's, it's hard to turn on the sun to get that magnetic storm going. So how does that work?
Well, it does. I mean, you have to be on at the right place and the right time. Let's say it is possible. The Northern Lights season goes from, let's say, mid-September to mid-March, more or less. Of course, the sky has to be clear with no clouds in order to see it, and it does not happen every day, of course. And it's a natural phenomenon. It can never be guaranteed.
All right.
But chances are good. Chances are good. There are some places where the solar storms that pushes the sun's power that goes to the earth, and then due to the magnetics of the earth, it goes towards the poles. Then they became visual in a ring that goes, to give you a rough idea, on top of Iceland, Norway, Finland, Canada, Alaska, Russia, and of course the Southern Lights on top of Antarctica. Southern Lights are way more difficult to see than the Northern Lights. Northern Lights are easier because you have population. You can go to Iceland, do a trip, you can sleep in a hotel, and so on. Antarctica is way more remote, and there is no tourism during the dark months.
Yeah, well, excuse me, I had a phone call. I don't know why. The Northern Lights get down into even northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin occasionally. I got all kinds of phones going off here. I don't know why. Leave me alone. Go away. Anyway, don't know why I shut them off, and they're still ringing. I have no control. Sebastian, we have to come back because the ships that you have, people are going to have a lot of questions. Go to the website, and it is beyond incredible. Simply the polartravelcompany.com, correct? That's your website. And
Correct.
if they want to get a hold of you personally, you know, because of these views, can they email you to ask you some questions, or, you know?
Definitely, of course, to myself or anyone on the team, we are always ready to help.
I'm sure we're going to have Sebastian on frequently. This is just too fascinating. For Live Eco Style and our whole team here, Sebastian, is there anything I missed that you want to, you know, I'll give you the 3-minute, you know, double overtime if you want to share anything else that, you know, your passion comes through the camera, comes through, you know, your vision of what you've done. Now you've got a couple of children that, you know, you're going to grow into this, and your legacy is going to be amazing for you to share with them as they see, Dad, you've been all over the world. You know, what do we have left? Well, there's always this place called Mars, you know, I mean, but boy, you've covered the world. That's incredible. I mean, just incredible. Go ahead if there's anything I've missed, Sebastian. Time is yours.
Thank you very much. No, well, what to say more than that this will be trips of a lifetime, definitely. I have had guests that those trips have changed them for good and for
Sure.
better, and they became ambassadors of the polar regions, and that is unique. It's astonishing how a place can change you, and it can give you a good impact, and then if I must finish with it, which it makes me proud of it as an industry, the polar associations. There are two associations, one for Antarctica, one for the Arctic, where the polar companies are members, and they are always ahead of making good for the environment, making giving I mean, doing tourism, which at the end of the day, this is what we do, tourism, but with a purpose as well, to create ambassadors of Antarctica, of the Arctic, of the polar regions, and also to change the tourism in a way, to change it for better. Just to give you a small example, they have started to eliminate single-use plastic of all the ships. There are no straws that are plastic. There are no wrap-ups. And that is changing in all the ships and all operators. They have, for this coming season, they will do a seasonal fuel consumption data from many ships. And they, from that information, this association will know how much fuel it's spent in all the tour operators, on all the cruise ships, and they are making a commitment to become zero emissions by in 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades.
Wow.
So they are always ahead of it, and they are bringing, which has happened for many years already, bringing scientists on board and helping science in the polar regions as well. Cleaning up Svalbard is another fantastic proposal associated with clean seas. So there's so many things going on, and as a part of that industry, it makes me proud of it, because it is not only business or only tourism. It is something else, if you know what I mean.
Let me end right there, because that was perfect, because that's the same scratch that I've been trying to itch all my life, is how to define that passion and then define it for other people. And it's a gift. It's a gift and a belief in the world that we live in, that there is a bigger message if we're just aware. And we're part of this planet. We're not the part of the planet.
No, exactly.
Okay. And this place has been around for a few billion years. We haven't. And it will overcome us. We just have to respect it during the few minutes that we have. And it's very rare in all the years, Sebastian, that I have done these interviews, that I have met a gentleman with the perfect passion and telling the story, and it comes through every word that you bring to this telecast. And I thank you for that, because it's motivational for me to truly find a person that gets and has lived and has embraced danger. There's danger in what you do. There's new, not in the trips you're going on, but taking a 33-foot sailing yacht to Antarctica, that's dangerous. I don't care how you cut it. It's not for the weak of heart. But now to be where you're at, taking people on very safe ships and seeing firsthand, that is important, and it comes right through. And I want to thank you for your time today. I want to connect with you next week. I'll be sending you an email there. We'll spend some more time, because you're too much of a treasure for the world not to understand what you've done and what you're trying to do. And not only that, to share it with people around the world, how they can go connect. We have a whole story. How do they connect? I'd like to evolve more about the trips that you have, how they work, what the ships look like, the real experience. And maybe if we get some footage from you, we can intersperse it. Now, can't make it any longer. I guess we could go 2-3 hours, but you know, it's been the fastest hour that I've spent in a long period of time. And it's been great getting to know you, Sebastian. Thank you very much for being part of our show today.
No, thank you very much, and thank you for your kind words. And I hope to see you again, and I hope to get some footage prepared to you so you can show it. That would be very, very nice.
Well, we'll work on it. That's a given. It's great. Thank you very much. My best. Be safe, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Bye.